By Psychology, How to Improve by Jonto. Yes. Amazing. I love it. What a banger intro. I was not expecting that.
The power trip of getting good at the weakest class in the game can be immense. So you want to get good at Spy, the French deception man that stabs people and steals identities. But the process of doing so is a particularly perilous journey. In fact, Spy is considered to have the highest base skill requirement of all the classes in order to play effectively. But it's not just playing a ton of Spy and trying to brute force results. There's ways you can go about learning the class in order to get better. But what in particular makes Spy so hard?
This is going to be a good one. I'm very interested in this video.
Like I said, Spy is widely considered the hardest class in the game. He is a light class, meaning he has only 125 health, the lowest that any class has without health-altering unlocks.
Right.
Of course, each of the light classes have ways of dealing with their low health. Scout has his speed, Sniper stands far away, and the Engineer has a sentry gun. But the Spy uses stealth.
Get right up on there on that Blue Yeti. Oh, I love that. That's perfect.
Your ability to be sneaky and evade enemies is the only thing keeping you alive.
Yep.
And there's so many factors you need to consider just to get a backstab. Where are the enemies? Where are they firing? Where should I cloak? Where is the ammo? Where is their spawn? Are they paranoid? Can anyone see or hear my decloak? Is my disguise realistic? Will the person on disguise see me? Did I just bump that guy? Is my disguise glitch? Can they see me with post-spawn wall hacks? Why is this guy still behind their spawn? Not to mention how you have to be able to trick and deceive enemy players. And different players may have different levels of awareness for Spy tactics. So you have to have a deep understanding of how other players are likely to play and what they're capable of. You need to know how the mechanics of not only your class works, but the mechanics of all the others so that you know what they can do. Playing Spy can drive you nuts. And don't just take it from me.
I cope using an immense amount of apathy.
Please, God, don't play Spy for 100 days straight, man. It does things to you.
Every time they throw a jar at me, I add it to my collection.
How do I cope with playing Spy? Ha! The answer is I don't.
Every time
Yeah.
I fail a trick stab as Spy, I consider ending my own life.
I feel that, Mark. Like, I really feel like I missed some collab. It's really cool to see Martin Pants. Like, I love this. This is great.
You can understand why Spy is such a daunting class for new players. And it's
The
okay to
Animal
not
Crossing.
be good at the class. You have to start somewhere, and that somewhere involves dying. Over,
A lot.
and over, and over, and over, and over, and over. Yeah, dying over and over again isn't fun, especially as much as you do as Spy, but those failures are how you learn, like
Right.
it or not.
Weird. It's almost like I keep saying this. Like, because failure is it's so, in modern context, it is so much perceived as a failure to the point that people will not even try, right? Obviously, like when you do anything, right, there's a certain amount of risk management, mitigation, right? Like, you don't necessarily want to say, I don't know, go on an impromptu road trip at 4 a.m., on an 8-hour trip and, you know, not have a hotel to stay at. Definitely didn't attempt to do that. But, like, I mean, even then, it's like, you want to make sure you're mitigating risk factors. But, like, here's the thing about video games, right? Like, and here's why we can have games like Dark Souls that can be so divisive, right? Jim Sterling even had a video on, like, games are political and that's okay. Dark Souls, yeah, is political. Grats. Do you link the fire or do you not link the fire? There's consequences for both. I love stuff like that. It's because gaming is a safe space, right? You're not going out to the range and attempting to trick stab people. That's not how that works. That's literally not how that works, right? So you're able to, in a safe environment, you're able to brute force a lot of learning. Like, sure, it's a failure, but use failures as learning opportunities. You fail enough times, you will have enough accumulated experience to literally level up. Like, it's like the game where you do a quest, right? Like a repeatable quest or a repeatable thing, right? And even if you fail, you still get like 10 XP. Grats. You can fail upwards. You can fail so much and get so much XP that you could just hit like level 10 by just failing.
But each death isn't necessarily some massive failure. You can just respawn and try again.
Yes, this.
You should always try to figure out how you died.
Yes.
And what could have been done about it.
People literally watch me do this on stream. I'm way out of position. My shots didn't land. I was way too wild with my shots. You know, I wasn't convincing enough to do this. With Pyro, you know, hey, they were way too far away, right? Like, having that cognizance to criticize. I've talked about this ad nauseum, so it's really cool to hear someone else talk about this.
If you try to dismiss every death as not your fault,
Yeah.
then of course you're not going to get any better. You aren't learning anything. When you die, you should immediately try to think about how you died. The more you do this, the more conditioned to it you'll become, and the better you'll get at it. No matter how good you get at Spy, you'll still die somewhat
Holy
frequently.
heavy.
You don't just become this perfect entity that ascends to a higher plane of existence. The things you learn from these deaths may only apply to that one particular game, or it could teach you lessons that carry with you for a long time.
I will say that I actually fall on the other side of this, where I actually criticize myself way too harshly. Those who have actually seen me, like, raid in Destiny 2 will know that, like, in King's Fall, I'm trying to juggle 3 mechanics on plate. I'm reading, I'm first well, and first night or something like that. Like, I think I'm second night specifically. Like, I'm trying to juggle multiple mechanics, and there's people on the fire team who literally have, like, after like 3 phases, they have like sub a mil damage. The person that's using like tractor cannon or the person that's using divinity, sure, like their whole point is to have lower damage because they're buffing the rest of the team. But if you're having like an edge transit bait and switch build, like if you're actually running meta damage loadout, right, for whatever we're doing, and you're not breaking 800,000 after 2 to 3 phases, like, it's not, as much as I can criticize myself for not breaking, say, 2.8 mil, that's not realistic, right? So this is kind of the asterisk at the end of the sentence, right? Yes, absolutely. Criticize yourself. Have cognizance on what you did, what could you have done, and could that have, made the situation better? Could you have come out on top? But there is a point where it's unreasonable. That is the niche argument I'm trying to argue. At a certain point, if you're on a full 6-stack fire team, the understanding is that, especially if you're doing a raid, people at least know how to press buttons and do damage, right? If you're 3-phasing with the one person having 600,000 damage and they're not swapping correctly, like they're actually just not playing the game, that at a certain point you are not at fault. And I think that there needs to be there needs to be more conversations about things like this. The trauma events that I did in February 20. Someone's gonna have to inform me what exactly these events were.
Like the traumatizing events of what I did on February 27th, 1997. Sure, you can binge the Spy Psychology series and gain and absorb a bunch of knowledge directly into your cranium, but I'm not some saint of spy gameplay. One of the best teachers is just getting beat up in game repeatedly.
Yeah.
That experience will teach you how to deal with the problems that come up. Speaking of experience, another very good way of gaining that experience is to not play Spy.
Yeah. Play other classes. Learn
I am
other classes.
being completely serious.
It makes sense.
You know how having to account for the actions and abilities of other classes is one of the things that makes Spy so difficult to play? Well, that becomes significantly easier to do when you yourself are able to play those classes effectively.
Spy feels like in older games, you know how there was that character that you unlocked by like beating the campaign? It was like the final boss character or like a secret character you unlocked, and they had some kind of wacky zany abilities. Spy kind of feels like that.
If you're still relatively new to TF2, here is my priority list of classes that I reckon are the best for new players. This list is not a set-in-stone rule, so definitely try experimenting with them and see which of the other classes you gravitate to more. But you should at least learn to play most, if not all of them, at a base level.
Yeah.
In fact, in my early days of TF2, I was actually half Spy main, half NG main. I'd often play Spy on offense and NG on defense. This made me a better Spy faster, and significantly reduced the mental torture I would have gone through had I played only Spy. Fun fact, most of my audience don't even main Spy. My time as an engineer taught me a lot about how to combat them as Spy, and vice versa. Especially since those two classes are known for being in constant conflict with each other. You don't just understand what those classes can do, but you understand how they play, and the countermeasures they can use against Spies. This very much plays into the paranoia episode, where you have to get into the enemy's head to try and figure out what they're going to do.
I actually really love that video. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Or with disguises, where if you know how certain classes behave, you can act like them. The main point of this all is how you learn through experience, and knowing how to use it. You get that experience most through your deaths and learning the other classes.
Mhm.
And while Spy is very much about getting into other people's heads, you should also learn to look within.
I was half expecting a Fighter PL Dark Souls 3 bit. I'm remembering his Archdragon Peak DS3 troll montage. I don't like that's where my brain immediately went. Wild. I like the edits. They're really good.
Seeing within your own psyche isn't something everyone is good at, but it's also another step to figuring out what's going right and what's going wrong. So I encourage you to at least try. In games like TF2, it's very easy to get stuck on autopilot and forget to play adaptively.
Yes.
You keep doing the same thing over and over again out of habit. This is known as being stuck in a spy loop. AKA a term I just made up. You keep taking the same flank, you keep picking up the same ammo boxes, you keep using the same disguise, you keep decloaking in the same spot, and you keep using the same escape path. Now this isn't necessarily bad. Sometimes it's good to develop a looping path when you're playing Spy that gets you kills. It can work in your favor when done right. The issue arises when you get stuck in a Spy loop. You keep doing the motions of the loop, but it's not working. You keep dying right before or right after getting kills. It can be easy to become frustrated as to why it isn't working, and yet you continue to engage in the loop trying to brute force it. It worked before, why isn't it working now? This is
I actually run into the opposite issue where I try to adapt way too much. And like, you can see this with any game I play, whether that's going to be Team Fortress 2, any FPS game, Resident Evil games, especially on harder difficulties. You know, like I will try to backtrack constantly, and I will try to at least think of 3 to 4 different ways that I could solve an encounter. So sometimes I get stuck in the loop, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I will try to brute force something. Destiny 2, we ended up going through a campaign recently. There was a mission that I was just livid over because I'm doing these mechanics, these same things over and over. And it's like the noise ended up not matching in my brain with what I'd heard before. So I didn't like the teleport pad. I'm like, this is failing, but it was actually turning on. So I feel that in certain regards, but I think I personally am more prone to the opposite, where I don't actually learn pathing and rotations. Thus, instead of having, say, 3 to 5 paths that you take on a map, which are efficient, and you just pick and choose those 3 to 5 paths, I try to have this like nebulous approach to things where like, you know, I could approach from this, I could approach from this, I could approach from this, when sometimes you just need the League of Legends logic. Look, there's like 3 paths you can take. There's 3 lanes. There's jungle in between the lanes. This is how you're playing the game.
why it's important to be able to realize when you get stuck in a spy loop, and subsequently break it. It can be as simple as changing the path you take, but it keeps you playing adaptively and thinking. It can also help out significantly with enemy paranoia, as your habits are constantly in flux.
Yes.
Another technique to seeing inside your own psyche is to record your own gameplay and commentate over it live with your own thought processes in the moment, regardless of what the quality is.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's me today. I'm gonna be playing Spy from Team Fortress 2.
You just need to be able to document your gameplay and live thoughts somehow. OBS is my personal recommendation for free screen recording software. You can then go back and analyze what you're thinking so that it will show me your motivation. It allows you to see in post what went wrong and how, but also what went right. It's much easier to think about this stuff when you're not in the overwhelming stress of an actual game. It's good to try and stay calm and collected as much as you can, and trying to avoid going insane. A big part of getting good at Spy is keeping your sanity in check. Most notably, your anger.
Yeah.
When you get angry, you don't think straight, and it begins to have a negative impact on your performance.
Being angry makes you predictable. I have experienced this firsthand, both receiving and giving in things like, you know, SCA and sparring and stuff, right? Not that I'm ever unsafe, right? But like, if I get frustrated or I get angry, maybe I'm losing a bunch, right? I become way more predictable. My strikes are way more predictable. I telegraph harder than a Dark Souls boss and vice versa. If somebody starts getting frustrated because I'm showing up with a shield and a longsword to rapier, their thrusts are going to be telegraphed a lot more. I would argue there is a direct correlation and causation between anger and predictability.
And considering how Spy dies so much, that is much easier said than done. It's very important to keep a cool head. When you don't think rationally, you begin to act on impulse more and more, and what's worse is that the negative performance you have from being angry can just make you more angry, which is known as a negative feedback loop, aka a term I didn't make up this time!
Yeah. It's
why,
a
yet
thing.
again, it's so important to be able to recognize the cause of your deaths. It allows you to learn and adapt from them, rather than letting your emotions take over. And like, sure, sometimes it really was bullshit.
These are actually heifers. You have been deceived.
Random crits, disguise glitch, cheaters, or your internet dying at the worst possible moment. What?
Yeah.
But those kinds of deaths usually aren't that common, and you need to try your best to take accountability for your deaths.
People keep appearing in places I don't expect.
Well, be wary of it.
People keep turning around at the last second.
Maybe they heard you or weren't preoccupied enough to not turn.
I keep getting hit while invisible.
Maybe change your path.
This pyro keeps chasing me down with his flamethrower. Spies!
That's just a pyro thing.
Gun!
Think about what you could have done and account for it. Even the most experienced spies can have really silly deaths. Well, I've had lots of comments from people telling me that the Spy Psychology series has had a massively positive effect on their gameplay.
Yeah.
I've had some who get frustrated that my videos aren't helping. But watching my videos isn't just a cheat to getting good at Spy. I don't just do all the thinking and improving for you. You need to be able to reflect on your own performance, like how I reflect on the dilemma of whether cucumbers are a vegetable or a fruit. People are different.
Yeah. I'm going to be thinking about that 3 a.m. now.
They may have different learning processes or different factors in their life that makes keeping cool harder. But here's some general tips that may help you avoid getting angry. 1. When you do get caught or noticed as Spy, you should expect to die there and then, but still attempt the escape anyway. This is a really interesting psychological trick where if you do end up dying, you're not disappointed.
Right.
But if you escape, then it ends up being a nice surprise. 2. Unbind the tab key. It stops you from looking at your kill-death ratio, because noticing you're gaining a negative ratio can often tilt you and just make that ratio worse.
I have a very, and this is with any game, whether that's Halo, Titanfall, I will generally go net zero. And I've had this on stream with Team Fortress 2 as well. Generally, I will sometimes go on a string of deaths, but sometimes I can clutch it. Generally, say I get 20 kills, I'll have 20 deaths, right? I either go slightly negative or I break even. That's just my skill level in games. This is actually the same reason why part of the tips to streaming is to just hide your viewer count, right? Talk like you're, talk and do content like you're, streaming to 1,000 people. It doesn't matter if one person is watching you intermittently, right? Like hiding that will start to help build good habits. And it also, you're not only building those good habits, but you're actually going through the motions as if you were doing it with a desired audience or a larger audience.
If you can't see it, then you don't know how many times you died.
Yes, exactly.
The scoreboard at the end of casual games still tells you how well you did,
sure,
but it doesn't show deaths.
It's worth noting that you don't need lots of kills or points to be a good spy.
This, yeah.
It's more about how much you're disrupting the enemy team.
3. Don't take yourself too seriously. You're playing a video game. Have some fun with it, and learn to laugh at yourself when you die in a funny way. It can turn unexpected deaths from being frustrating to entertaining.
Not the French ambush.
Play other classes. If Spy isn't working out for you this round, or you have too many, just play a different class. It'll be less stressful and give you time to reevaluate. And 5, stop playing. If you start getting really tilted, sometimes it's best for you to just log off and take a break.
Yeah.
There are lots.
I actually think that's part of the modern negative feedback loop in modern games, right? So think about it this way, right? How most modern games, we have dark psychology patterns, we have retention farming, etc. And, well, you have to run, X amount of content per day, per week, per month, per season, whatever, right? I wonder if that's directly feeding into the negativity. Like, I feel like this is a basic concept that someone's going to be like, well, duh, Kip, that makes a lot of sense. But what Jonto says here actually is true, right? It's a game. Look, even if you are top 100, say, spies in the game, right? You're not playing the game at a, like an MLG esports level. I don't even know if TF2 has like an esports scene. I don't know. Esports scenes have been in flux for a few years now. Like, it is perfectly fine to say, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not getting tilted today. I'm not doing it, right? And that especially goes into more casual play as well, right? Like we'll have our community nights and people will pop in. They'll pop in for a game or 2 or 3 or 4, and then they're just like, hey, it's the other kind of late, or you know what? I'm getting bullied by this pyro. I need to hop off. That's healthy. That's how that's supposed to work.
Things that can affect your mood, and it may even be things outside of the game that are affecting your emotions. As said many times, Spy is hard. Improving at the class can take a considerable amount of mental strain. But no matter how many times you get beat down, you always eventually get back up. And at some point, you will send that pain right back.
I love his edits. It's really good to see how consistent and how good he's gotten with SFM. I love these. Like, these are a huge reason to watch the videos in themselves. Like, these are truly art. And it boggles me that this man does not have at least 500,000, much less a million. Like, this is 1 mil sub content. Blows my mind. It is insane. Ugh, so many demo nights. Well, and that's the thing, is like play different classes, right? Even from a very casual perspective that I am, right? Like a very casual player. If I see a demo night with an Islander, I know he's going to try to use the charge and I try to judge the distance. I do this with Pyro all the time, right? As a Pyro, I try to figure out how do I fight the scout, especially the scout at the distance, right? Do I pop my... I usually use the flare gun, right? I think I'll swap to detonator soon, though. I usually use the flare gun to try to ping him from range. I know if I try to pursue him, his shotgun's going to enter its effective range, and my flames aren't necessarily going to be able to reach him, right? Heavies. If heavies have high sensitivity, if they're able to move their mouse very quickly, even if I get behind them with the back burner, I'm not going to do enough damage where they can snap to me. And it's not even just with Spy. This is across all classes. You want to get good with something, anything, right? Whether that's from a video game, whether that's in real life, whether that's, going to college, going for a degree, right? Like, the important thing that matters is to, yes, engage with the content, engage with the subject matter, right? And not only that, but to critique and criticize yourself on where your shortcomings and your successes are, and ultimately vary what you do, right? If you just play Halo, you can only hit it. You will reasonably, even if you're like top 100 Onyx, you will only hit a certain skill ceiling. That's my hot take. If you move over to Call of Duty, even if you're awful at it, or if you move to TF2 and you don't really like it, or Overwatch, what can you learn from those games? And I've done this with many things. I've gone over to a new game and I'm like, you know what? This recontextualizes this other game I was playing. And that's just the cycle of learning. We should celebrate learning rather than use the corrupted get good rhetoric that permeates modern internet culture. I digress. Let me know what you think. Come to your own educated conclusion on the subject. I thought this was amazing. I can't really wait to really learn more about TF2, honestly. It seems like a lot of people like these videos. A lot of people like these reactions. A lot of people actually over on the gaming channel as well have really liked the VODs. Like, those have been some of my most viewed content in a hot minute. So I will be continuing to do content so long as people want to. And ultimately, it's just really good to play a game that just presents itself as just a good game. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.